You've been told the sirens were just seductive monsters, beautiful voices, pretty faces, a sailor's weakness. That version is easy to digest. It's also wrong, because the sirens don't win by sex. They win by psychological hijack. They don't lure your body, they lure your decision-making, the part of you that says, "I'm in control." And that's what makes them one of the darkest threats in all of Greek mythology. The sirens don't kill you like a predator. They make you choose your own death and feel proud while you do it. So today we're going deeper than the pretty song myth. We're decoding the siren song as ancient sound manipulation, an early blueprint of mind control, obsession, and what I'll call siren psychosis. That moment when your brain stops prioritizing survival and starts prioritizing the need to know. Let's begin where the Odyssey makes the horror undeniable. Welcome to Eastern and Western Legends. Here, we explore together the most mysterious myths, legends, and epic stories from both East and West. The first truth: the sirens don't need chains. You do. When Odysseus reaches the sirens, he doesn't draw his sword. He doesn't prepare an attack. He prepares a restraint. He tells his crew to plug their ears with wax, because he knows if they hear the song, they won't row, won't steer, won't think. They'll drift into the rocks, smiling. Then he makes one decision that should terrify you more than any monster's teeth. He orders his men to tie him to the mast. Not loosely, not just in case. He wants it tight. He wants it irreversible. And the most disturbing part? He tells them, if he begs, if he threatens, if he screams commands to set him free, they must tie him tighter. That is not a hero being brave. That is a man admitting something humiliating and rare. I cannot trust myself. And that's the real horror of the sirens. They force even the smartest man in the story to accept that his mind is not his ally. It is the battlefield. The sirens as a weapon. Why sound is the perfect trap. Here's why the sirens work so well. Most monsters require distance. They need claws to reach you. They need waves to drown you. They need strength to overpower you. The sirens don't need any of that. They only need sound. Sound crosses distance without permission. You can't not hear something the way you cannot see something. Sound slips around obstacles. It invades you. It becomes internal. And ancient people understood this. In the ancient world, sound wasn't just entertainment. It was ritual. It was prophecy. It was divine authority. It was the voice of gods, kings, and poets. So when the Odyssey presents a monster that kills through song, it's not random. It's saying, the most dangerous force is not the blade. It's the voice that makes you stop resisting. What does the siren song actually do? Let's get specific. The siren song doesn't just sound beautiful. It sounds personal. It promises what you already want. And that's how manipulation works in real life. It doesn't invent your desire, it weaponizes it. So what is the siren song targeting? 3 core human vulnerabilities. First, curiosity. The need to know what's over the horizon. The craving for forbidden information. The part of you that hates unanswered questions more than it fears consequences. Second, ego. The belief that you are the exception. That you can listen and not be affected. That you can stand closer than anyone else and still walk away. Third, grief. The need for closure, the longing to hear a voice you lost, the desire to be told your pain means something. The sirens don't need to drag you, they only need to make you feel like dying is worth it if you get the answer first. That is the exact shape of obsession. And obsession is why I call it siren psychosis. Because at a certain point, obsession becomes a kind of madness, not crazy in a cartoon sense, but a narrowing of the world until there's only one goal. Not survival, not family, not home, just closer. Siren psychosis, the moment you stop being you. Let's define the psychological horror clearly. Siren psychosis is when your survival instincts get overridden by a single obsession. You don't think, this will kill me. You think, I need to hear more. You don't fear the rocks, you fear missing the truth. You don't care that your hands are bleeding from climbing the rigging. You care that you might stop before you reach the source. That's why sailors crash. because their brains stop processing the environment as danger. The environment becomes irrelevant. There is only the voice. So the sirens don't just lure you to death, they reorder your priorities. And that is the most terrifying kind of power. The power to rearrange the hierarchy of what matters to you. If a monster can do that, it doesn't need to be strong. It doesn't even need to move. Why Odysseus wants to hear them anyway. Now here's the part that makes Odysseus's scene darker. Odysseus is warned. He knows the danger. He knows the mechanics, and he still chooses to listen. This is not stupidity. This is the tragic flaw of intelligence, the belief that knowledge is worth any cost. Odysseus is not just trying to survive, he's trying to collect experience. He's a man who wants stories, fame, and the feeling of being the one who saw what no one else could survive seeing. So when the sirens sing, they're not just offering beauty, they're offering the ultimate temptation for an ego-driven mind. Come closer, and you'll be the one who knows. This is why the sirens aren't female monsters. They're not about gender. They're about the part of you that wants to feel special. And the Odyssey is brutally honest about it. Even the cleverest man becomes an animal when obsession takes the wheel. That's why Odysseus screams to be untied. Because in the moment, the voice doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like destiny. The most uncomfortable detail. The crew doesn't get the same story. Notice what Odysseus does with his crew. He gives them wax. He gives himself the experience. That's a power dynamic. He's the leader, the hero, the main character, so he gets to taste the danger, while they are reduced to obedient labor. The scene quietly reveals something about leadership in myth. Sometimes leaders are not protecting their people from danger. They're protecting their people from knowledge, while taking it for themselves. That's not a moral judgment here, it's a psychological one. The sirens don't just tempt individuals, they expose hierarchy, ego, and the way "I deserve to know" becomes a justification for risking others. So yes, the sirens are psychological horror, but the story also shows you another truth. The scariest mind manipulation is the kind that makes you believe you're making a noble choice. Ancient sound manipulation versus modern reality. Now here's where the Odyssey becomes modern without trying. Because if you strip away the feathers and the rocks, the siren mechanism still exists. Replace song with anything engineered to hijack attention, a feed that never ends, a headline that makes you angry enough to share without thinking, a rumor that feels too important to ignore. A piece of content designed to trigger curiosity, outrage, or longing. The method is the same. Step 1, create a hook that feels personal. Step 2, trigger obsession. Step 3, make the target move closer, physically or mentally, until they crash. That's why the sirens are timeless. They are a mythic representation of attention capture, and in the Odyssey, attention capture equals death. Not because attention itself is evil, but because attention, when hijacked, becomes a steering wheel, and you stop driving. So how do you survive the sirens? Here's the brutal truth. Most people think survival means willpower, but the Odyssey says willpower is not enough. Odysseus survives because he uses systems, not strength. So if we reduce it to a survival guide, you get 3 rules. Rule 1. Don't negotiate with the trigger. Odysseus doesn't try to resist, he blocks the sound for his crew completely, because partial exposure is the illusion of control. Rule 2. If you must listen, remove your ability to act. He ties himself down. That's the terrifying part. He builds a prison to protect himself from himself. Rule 3. Your friends must ignore your worst moments. This is the hardest rule. Odysseus tells his crew, "When I beg, ignore me. When I command, disobey me, because the voice will use my authority to free me." That is survival, not heroism, not strength. A system designed for the version of you that will eventually lose control. And that's why the sirens are so dark. They force you to admit that the real enemy is not the monster outside you. It's the part of you that would willingly walk into the rocks. Why the sirens are psychological horror. The Cyclops eats you, Scylla takes you, Charybdis swallows you. But the sirens make you agree. They don't fight you. They convince you that dying is worth it. They turn self-destruction into desire. And that's why the Sirens are one of the darkest monsters ever written. Because the scariest horror isn't being hunted, it's being controlled, without realizing you've already surrendered. So I want your verdict. If you were on Odysseus's ship, would you plug your ears and stay safe? Or would you be like Odysseus and risk everything just to hear what the song promised? Comment your answer. And if you want part 2, we go even darker. Scylla versus Charybdis. Which death is worse?